Hi, this is Pat Johnson, your psychology instructor. And in this mini lecture, we're going to look at projective personality tests, and then take a close look at the most famous one, the Rorschach inkblot test. Projective personality tests are based on Freud's defense mechanism of projection. So a client is shown an ambiguous stimuli. Ambiguous means unclear. It's hard to make out exactly what's going on or what exactly is the picture. Then a client projects his or her unconscious thoughts and feelings into the ambiguous stimuli. One of the more famous projective personality tests is the Rorschach inkblot test. And yes, a guy by the name of Rorschach put ink on a piece of paper, folded the paper over, and when there were interesting and ambiguous pictures made out of the ink, he chose those to be part of his projective tests. What a client is supposed to do is say what they see in the inkblot. On this side, you see the original 10 inkblots that Rorschach used in his famous inkblot test. So a client would be shown one card and asked, what do you see? Where do you see it? So for example, when I show these Rorschach cards to my seated classes, on this one, most people say it's a bat, or it's a butterfly, or a moth. And that's a very common answer to a Rorschach inkblot card. I've had people say that this looks like a guy on a Harley leaning backwards, and I see that too. Some of them have color in them, so I've had people say this is two elephants or this is two guys playing patty cake. But that's the Rorschach inkblot test. Rorschach and his followers really made this into a system where they thought they could tell about a person's personality just based on their answers. Research shows that it's not that valid. I think the Rorschach inkblot test's most useful way of being used is to be a starting point for conversations. Whether or not it taps into the unconscious, well, I'm not so sure about that, but it is a conversation starter. There are other projective tests. Another one that you'll commonly see is the TAT, which stands for the Thematic Apperception Test. These are drawings of people in ambiguous situations, and the client, instead of saying what they see, they actually tell a story. So, some therapists still use projective personality tests in their practice, others do not, but they are one tool that a therapist can use in assessing personality.